Jon Scheyer has called out his star player in a move that is highly reminiscent of one made by another legendary Duke head coach, and we have to break it down. What's up, guys? I'm Matt Long. Welcome to Duke Basketball 365. If you're a Duke Blue Devils basketball fan, please hit that subscribe button. But getting into the news for today, coming from ESPN, Duke coach Jon Scheyer offered a challenge to star recruit Cameron Boozer at halftime of the Blue Devils season opener Tuesday night against Texas, bluntly telling the 6'9" freshman forward phenom that he was playing soft. Boozer got the message and then proceeded to take over the game. After failing to score in the first half, Boozer rallied to finish with 15 points, 13 rebounds, 10 of those after halftime, as the sixth-ranked Blue Devils overcame a 33-32 halftime deficit to beat Texas 75-60 in the Dick Vitale Invitational at the Spectrum Center. So, Jon Scheyer gets handed a top recruit. A lot of coaches would just give in to whatever that recruit wants. In the era of NIL, a lot of coaches are worried about losing their top guys. Now, Cam Boozer is a little bit different because we expect he's going right to the NBA, one and done. But this is great to see because this shows that, not something that we didn't know, but Jon Scheyer is the guy in charge of this team. The players are not, they're not in control. No matter how high of a recruit you are not going to be in control of this team and what's going on. And just if anyone watching the video is not familiar with who this guy is that we're talking about, Cameron Boozer, one of two twin sons of Duke legend Carlos Boozer, and then he, as a recruit, ranked as a 5-star 100 rated prospect on 24/7 Sports, the number 3 recruit in the country, number 1 power forward, number 2 recruit in the state of Florida, committing to Duke about a year ago in a move that wasn't very surprising, but was definitely very exciting for Duke fans. Cameron Boozer is someone that Duke fans need to be extremely excited about because not only is he our number 1 recruit for this year, he looks to be a star player for this season and someone that will be very, very exciting over the course of the year. But in the intro, I talked about how this move by Jon Scheyer is reminiscent of a move that another Duke head coach did in the past. And of course, I'm talking about Mike Krzyzewski and Jason Tatum. Mike Krzyzewski, at halftime of a game, told Jason Tatum that he was just a soft St. Louis kid. The language was a little bit more colorful, but I'm not going to be You're going to be taking the color out of that language for this channel. We're going to keep it family friendly. So Coach K called out Jason Tatum, and then Jason Tatum went out in the second half of that basketball game and absolutely mopped the floor with their opponent. He went crazy. Cam Boozer did something very similar. He didn't, take over in a crazy way, but scoring 15 points in the second half after scoring 0 in the first half was a really, really good thing to see. The first half, Boozer was very, very cold, shooting 0 for 7 or 0 for 8 in the first half shooting. Not good at all. But in the second half, he did a whole lot of it from the free throw line, and that's because he was more aggressive. He wasn't settling for a shot and taking worse shots. He was getting into the paint, getting to the basket, and forcing the officials to make a call. When you do that, you force them to either call an offensive foul or a defensive foul, and usually it's going to be a defensive foul. And especially in the college game where you only get 5 fouls, you want to get those big men for the other team, get those guys in foul trouble so we can have an even more of an advantage than Duke already has. Now, that first game against Texas, we have to remember that was a tough game. Texas made the NCAA tournament last year. They lost a playing game to the Xavier Musketeers, but they were a pretty good team as well. And they come from a conference that last year, the SEC, put 14 teams in the national tournament, the most we have ever seen from a single conference. So don't think that that Texas game was, that team was no joke. That team was absolutely fantastic. And I know some of the games coming up are very, very easy for Duke, starting with Western Carolina University. But then, on the horizon, we all see that Kansas game. But Texas was a fantastic measuring stick starting game for Duke. We are expecting to be, a top team again this year, starting the year off with the 6th overall ranking. That will probably, or maybe that could go up with number 3 Florida losing their opener to Arizona. But the way that the early rankings go, usually if you're a top 15 team and you beat a top team, they usually do it like they do in the UFC, where you just take that team's ranking. Because early in the season, the AP voters, that's the Associated Press, they're not associated with, any one school. They're not biased. They're just, people in the press trying to pick out the best possible teams and put together the best possible rankings that they can. But early in the season, the AP rankings are not very accurate because a lot of it is projections. It's what we've seen from the team last year combined with what they did in the offseason, who they gained, who they lost, and they kind of guess to put together who is the best ranking. So, but, of course, they're not going to be able to guess everything right. And once we get week 1 in the books, that's when the AP rankings are going to be a lot sharper, and that's why there can be a huge amount of movement in the rankings. That's why Duke is not guaranteed to jump up into the top 5, even though we got a very good win over a very good Texas program and a team ranked above us lost. But looking at who we have coming up on the docket, we have 3 easier matchups on paper. Western Carolina tomorrow on Saturday at 1:30. Should be, Duke by 50. That game's just going to be all about getting right, figuring out who are the rotations going to be this year, get the new freshmen, get them involved, get them playing, get them minutes against real college competition. It's always different when it's in a game and not just in camera or just practicing against,
each other.
And then, after that game, going to be playing against, of course, Army, Mike Krzyzewski's alma mater. We're playing Army every single season. So this season will, of course, be no doubt. They should be tougher than Indiana State and Western Carolina, but Duke should be able to handle business. Indiana State, another game where it's going to be, let's get guys going. And number one thing that has to get going for this Duke team is our point guard, Caleb Foster. He has to be more aggressive looking for a shot. We saw last Tuesday night when Duke played, in the first half, he was a little bit timid, and it looked like Foster would drive to the basket with the intention to kick it out. But then in the second half, after the announcers as well were echoing my sentiment of he has to look for a shot more aggressively, he made some really good plays, got to the basket, I think Caleb Foster hit all of his shots. I don't have the box score in front of me, but he hit a majority of his shots, played a great game offensively. But I do think Caleb Foster is a player who is supremely talented, but when he came in that first year, he came in talented and hungry and confident, but he kind of lost that confidence because he got to Duke and he realized he wasn't as good as he thought he was going to be. But for Caleb Foster, it's all about confidence. He's not a top player, but he could be really, really good as long as he's playing confidently. And that confidence with Caleb Foster, it's different from game to game. So he's just got to make sure he's staying confident, and confidence is going to matter when we are taking on Kansas. We got them on the 18th of November. Have to figure that out. Kansas, every single year, they are reloaded. This year is no joke. No Hunter Dickinson, but he finally joined the Indeed transfer portal. But Duke, that should be an awesome game, and the first really, really challenging test for this Duke team, and I can't wait to see what that Champions Classic has in store for us against the Kansas Jayhawks. Always awesome to watch those early seasons blue blood matchups, and this year is going to be no different. Kansas Duke should be a fantastic game for us to witness. But that's what I got for this video. You stuck around this long. Appreciate you taking the time to watch it. Please hit that like button if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and go Duke.